Day at the museum. I have a story for you, from back in the day when I was just a high school student. We were supposed to visit the History Museum, and at the time, I thought that it was the most boring place in the entire planet. I had a best friend back then. His name was Mike, and we would do anything together. We'd hang out after school, play video games, ride around on our skateboards, and even our moms knew each other and were friends. We were that close. So at least having him on this trip would make the entire thing a little bit more bearable. Anyway, after a short drive from our school to the museum, we got there. The school hired a tour guide to walk us through important historical events and show us different artifacts while pointing out what they were used for and so on. As we were taking the tour, Mike pointed out something strange. A man, dressed in black, sort of hunched over, was acting kind of strange. He was acting like he was hiding something. After to look around as if he wanted to make sure that no one was following him, he went into a room, but he didn't notice that he dropped something behind him. As we could see from afar, it was an empty jar. Me and my friend looked at each other and knew that this is our way out. We had the chance to do something interesting. The tour started to become more and more boring, and why not take the chance to have fun? Let's help that guy out. Maybe he really needs that jar and only us can give it back to him, Mike said. I immediately agreed, and off we went. Slowly, so the drill sergeant could not spot us, we got the jar and opened the door. To our surprise, that door led downstairs. Maybe to some kind of basement or something? Oh, and I forgot to mention, the sign on the door said staff only. But if we were helping out the staff, wouldn't that make us part of the staff? So without hesitation, we went down the stairs. We were carefully placing our feet on each step, as it was almost pitch black. The concrete staircase was long, and at one time went into a spiral. We got a little bit dizzy, but we managed to maintain our balance. It was a really long way down, and at one point I told my friend that it would be better if we would go back. It seemed like the stairs didn't go anywhere. But I remembered why we were there. Someone did come in here, and we didn't bump into him, so the stairs must end eventually. After about 10 minutes, we finally saw a light. We were relieved that finally something will happen. After the last step, we set foot on the ground and saw something in front of us. It was a closed door, but light came through the space between it and the wall. Surely there must be something interesting at the other side. Mike was braver, so he went to the doorknob, waited a couple of seconds, took a deep breath, and turned it. It was a weird room. There was no one inside, even though we saw that man come down here, and there was literally no other place to go. "Hello?" I said. As we looked around, we saw many tables with stuff on them, but they were all covered in black sheets. Everything was white, and the fluorescent lights made everything even brighter that almost hurt your eyes. But the weirdest thing was that there wasn't any door inside. So where could the guy disappear? I started to look around, and the table caught my eye. I was wondering what kind of things they were keeping under the sheets. Being curious, I lifted one of them up, and at that moment, I dropped the jar that I was holding in my left hand. The image that I saw will remain in my mind forever. "What's wrong?" Mike asked, and came to see what was going on. He froze also. There we were, two kids, in front of something gruesome. Something that seemed like it was unreal. After I snapped out of it, I took the entire sheet off the table, and there they were. Tens of jars, just like the one we took. But they were not empty. Oh no. They were filled to the max. It looked like Halloween props, but we knew right there and then that the parts we saw were as real as they get. Fingers, eyeballs, ears, noses, all in a liquid, and at first glance managed to keep them, how can I say it, fresh? I took a step back and stepped on a loose tile. After I did, a powerful noise started to come from one of the walls. It sounded like giant wheels were turning. This triggered a trap door on the wall, and there he was. The man we saw. But he had his back turned to us, and seemed like he was doing something. The man was grunting. We took quiet steps towards the door so we could see what the guy was doing. Little did we know, he was hacking off the foot of a person on some sort of metal table. His face was all covered in blood, and the victim on the table was either dead or heavily sedated. It was like he was cutting a tree. The man used an old, rusty saw to chop off the leg. The sound of steel on bone was excruciating. You couldn't listen to it for a long time, and the smell that filled the room was also unbearable. All of a sudden, he turned around. The man was shocked and almost dropped his saw from his hands. He froze for a couple of seconds, not knowing how to react, and, to be honest, me and Mike were in the same boat. There we were, the three of us, just staring at each other. All of a sudden, the man decided that he should make a move, and at that moment he charged at us. We were just returning this jar to you. You dropped it upstairs, I said. He then paused for a moment and said, "Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. Thank you for bringing it to me. You kids are great. Come here. I want to give you something for your trouble," he told us, while still firmly holding the saw. We felt like something wasn't right, so we decided to stay away from him, telling the guy that we just wanted to get out of there. Seeing that we wouldn't come to him, he started insisting that we do, and almost started to scream, demanding that we do what he tells us to do. He then made a few steps in our direction, and the next thing he said was, "You're never getting out of here alive," he told while grabbed us both by the neck. As soon as he put his hands on us, it felt like we're starting to lose oxygen. I felt dizzy, and any moment now, I could have fainted. We tried to escape, but he was just too strong. His grip kept getting tighter and tighter. I was feeling tremendous pressure behind my eyes, and my vision was getting blurry, while a loud ringing started to flood my ears. As we struggled to get free, we knocked some of the jars on the ground. Body parts were all over the floor, and the man was screaming in anger. His eyes turning red and his blood vessels popped. It was like he wasn't human. I saw him like a monster at that particular moment. All of a sudden, his screaming was interrupted by someone else. Another voice could be heard from behind us. "No, we don't do things this way. You know the procedure. They're just kids. The boss would be disappointed if we stooped this low. Make this problem go away, but in a clean manner. Put them down this instant. Don't make me use other, more convincing and fun methods to make you do what I say," the voice said. And at that moment, the man holding us knocked us both unconscious. The next thing I knew was that I woke up in my bed. I was shocked. I didn't know what was going on. Did I dream this? I asked myself before picking up my phone and calling Mike. He didn't pick up. I went to his house, but it said sold. Later to find out that he moved the next day with his entire family. I never knew where he went, and that door at the museum? Well, it wasn't there after I checked it out a few days later.